Before we get into the content today, just a quick reminder that if it resonates with you and you want to book in with me or my coaches, there is a free call booking link in the description. Enjoy. If you feel closed out by the guy you're seeing or the guys you see, if you attract men who consistently struggle to use their words to express themselves, especially their emotions, or if you just generally find yourself in situations where the men you're with don't open up to you emotionally, then this is going to be the video for you. In it, I'm going to be sharing how to make it safe for your man to open up emotionally. When I work with clients, there's 3 specific areas we focus on to create them healthy long-term relationships. Understanding men, relationship skills, and core confidence. And this content we're going to be talking about today covers all 3 of these areas. So if you've been in this situation, you want to listen closely. So when a man's not opening up emotionally, there are a few things that you need to consider before you go in and try to make it happen. Number 1 is that you as the woman have got to make it safe for him. And yes, whether it's sexist or not, this is kind of your job as the woman. It's the man's job, generally speaking, to create the safety in the physical space, and it's your job to create the safety in the emotional space. So this is where the core confidence and the understanding men comes in, for you to really create that safety for him and give him the best opportunity to do that. Now, the second thing to consider is how you do it. That's where we're going to touch on a little bit of relationship skill stuff today and give you some specifics in terms of the actual how. What do you say? What do you do to make it safe for him to open up? And the third thing that you got to keep in mind is that you cannot do it for him. You're not here to rescue him. You can't get blood out of a stone. He has to come to the party too. So yes, you can do and should do absolutely everything from your end, but understand you don't have full control. You're not there to rescue him. You can show up as best you can and then let fate and let the chips fall where they may, so to speak. Let fate decide. Okay, so let's talk about each of these in turn. How do you first of all make it safe for him? See, when it comes to emotions, men, we feel danger. We don't like going there. We're not very experienced going there. Compared to virtually all women, we're rank amateurs, so we feel kind of inadequate going there in the first place in these types of conversations. And most of our work, most of getting stuff done, requires us to compartmentalize emotions so that we can focus on our purpose and what we want to do. This basically means that in a lot of these feelings type conversations, we don't feel very competent, very confident. And that's why we rely on you to make it safe for us to actually expose ourselves and expose our weaknesses and lack of expertise in that area. So how do you make it safe for him? Well, the biggest thing that men are listening for subconsciously to know if it's safe is we are thinking, how will you react? What's going to be your reaction if we show you this vulnerable emotion, or if we show we're not very good at emotions, or if we don't know? What's going to be the reaction that we get from you? Will there be shame? Will there be judgment coming from you? Will you laugh at us? Will you mock us? Will you say that we should do better or we should know more? We are listening out through your mannerisms as to what sort of reaction we're going to get. And there's a couple of things that will predict this. Number 1 is, how comfortable are you with emotions? And this is where core confidence comes in. If you're not comfortable with sadness, there is no way in hell we're going to be sad around you. No way in hell. If you're not comfortable with expressing insecurity, there is no way in hell we are going to feel comfortable expressing insecurity. If you're not comfortable with vulnerability, we are not going to be comfortable expressing vulnerability with you. We as men always need you to be more adept than us. And this is where some of your work comes in. Can you get comfortable with your own emotions and maybe those own parts of yourself that you've been told were bad? We need a woman with that core confidence who accepts those parts of herself, and then maybe we can feel safe to express them around you. The other piece is reactions we've had in the past from other women. So this is not all about you. This could be from our mums, this could be from our ex-girlfriends. Lots of men have had lots of reactions to sharing emotions in the past, and you, in terms of understanding men, it's not just about you. It's about all the reactions we've had up until this point being with you of how women have reacted to our vulnerable shares, how women in our life have reacted to our emotions. Have they been accepted or not accepted, judged or not judged? We have a whole history, a whole catalog of evidence as to what parts of ourselves are or are not acceptable. And of course, your reactions that you've already had in the current relationship will affect that as well. So what this means, all this adds up to a sort of a conclusion of how safe we feel with you and how confident we feel in just generally sharing our emotions and thoughts and inner fears with a woman, and especially with you. So you got to make sure, number 1, you're comfortable with your own emotions. That helps make it safe for us. And number 2, come in with an understanding of us. I know you might not know a man's entire history, but you probably have an idea. Where was he accepted? Where was he not? And you can play a part in helping that, because you might be the first woman in his life who actually makes it safe for him to share sadness. And that, if he's open to stepping there with a bit of fear, if he's open to challenging himself into that, can be a very healing experience for him, and that can help him grow as an individual in your presence. So core confidence, understanding men, those two pieces really come into you making it safe for him. And the final piece about understanding men is making sure you don't expect him to be as good as you. Now, of course, you need emotional connection, you need affection, you need to relate to him in the relationship, but also understand, and this will affect your reactions, he's initially not going to be as good as you. Don't expect him to be a woman, because he's probably not going to be as good as your girlfriends talking about this stuff. Yes, you have to have a minimum standard. And yes, you will have to walk away from men who are completely emotionally inept. But just understand that if you expect him to be equally as good as you all the time, you're probably going to be disappointed. That's going to come out in your reactions, and he's no longer going to feel safe sharing with you. It's a balance between knowing what you want ideally and knowing what he's capable of stepping up to over time if you make it safe for him. And this brings us to the relationship skills section, the actual how of what you can do to make it as safe as possible for him to feel comfortable opening up to you. So one of the really big things here is the type of questions that you ask, and just think about what you're asking for from a man before you ask it. For example, the question, how do you feel, is a very intuitive question for you and a very difficult one for us. It's a hard question to answer. See, most men, again, this comes back to understanding men, most men are in this phase where we focus, where we concentrate, where we look at one thing, and changing to figuring out how we feel is like changing gears in a car that you haven't driven for 5 years. It's rusty, it's awkward, it's not smooth as silk like it is for you. It's a difficult question. So rather than asking how do you feel, you can ask questions like, what do you prefer? What is your opinion on? If you had to say what you like more, would it be blank or blank? Try to ask questions that are a little more in the middle, that bring out how he feels, what his opinion is, what his want or his need is, without directly asking, hey, you, tell me how you feel right now. If you do want to know how he feels and you do want to get that answer, you can also get that, but I would give you a tip, which is to give him some time. Give him some time. Remember, men are internal processes. We hate being wrong in front of you. We've always had women right throughout our biological history look to us for confidence. If there's a shadow on the horizon, you're looking at us to tell you if it's a tiger and we should run and move the tribe, or if it's a tree and everything's fine. You're looking for that confidence from us, and so we men like to go away and come back to you with a confident answer. So if you do want to know the feeling, you could ask a guy, hey babe, I'm really curious to know how you feel about blank. I know that's a tough question for you to answer. Would you be open to coming back to me in 24 or 48 hours and letting me know how you feel about that? A guy's going to be a lot more open to that style of question because he has the chance, he's not feeling inadequate. He has the chance to go away, figure it out, go in his little man cave, and then come back to you with an answer he feels confident in. Another thing you could try is you could ask for a score out of 10. You could say, hey, give him a feeling. Say, hey, out of 10, how connected do you feel? Or hey, out of 10, how happy do you feel about this? Giving a guy an objective measure helps him get a little closer to his answer that he can share with you, rather than an open question like, how do you feel? Another important piece of this is to make sure that you're using feelings yourself. Now you might think you are, but I was on a call with a client about 2 weeks ago, and we actually listened to a recording of a conflict she'd had with her partner. She'd been feeling unloved through a couple of his actions, and this had started a conflict. And I listened to about 10 minutes of this conflict. And do you know, even though I could hear that she was hurt, even though I could hear that she didn't like what had happened, she never once used a feeling word. She thought she had, but she'd never actually shared a feeling. And this is really, really common. A lot of times we confuse thoughts with feelings, and you'd be surprised how many women want men to share feelings when they're not even doing it themselves. So again, you've got to make it safe for him. You've got to stand out as a model for what you want from him and you want to make safe from him. And it's very hard for him to do it if you're not doing it. So these skills, combined with the understanding of men and the core confidence, are what give you the best opportunity to create a safe space for him to step into. Also remember though, point number 3, it's not just you. You're not the fixer-upper, you're not the rescuer, and you can't do it all for him. You can show up fully and do your side of the fence. You can do your 50%, but ultimately it's going to take him leaning in as well. And that's a decision he has to make based on the consequences of what happens if he doesn't decide to make that decision. Remember, most men will only step up when the consequences of not doing so make it worth it. Understanding men, core confidence, relationship skills, using all of these, you can make a man feel safe emotionally and give him the best chance possible with safe reactions from you to allow him to do that, connect to you, and become closer to you. Don't forget, if you want to book in a call with me and my team to work on this stuff in a one-to-one format, you can do that. It's absolutely free. The link is in the description below. Leave your comment in the space below. I'd love to hear if this process has worked for you. Hit the like button and the big red subscribe button with the little bell, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.